Thursday. It's 11 o'clock. Sorry if you're expecting me at 2. I'm on taxi duty again, which I can't easily rearrange. So here we are, bright and early in the morning. It's always a bit, notable when the first time you look at your face in the morning is when you're actually live on YouTube. So this is all, we'll deal with that later. It's all good. Let us dive in to our live stream to see what we're going to cover today. And if I make myself small, I don't have to look at my face anymore. Great news. What are we doing on the live stream this week? Well, we're doing our usual task of the week. We're going to be looking at team roles this week in our task of the week. We're going to be setting up roles for all of the people who work with you on your team. And then in Reporting Spotlight, we're going to be using that data. We're going to be making use of all of the hard, data entry work that you put in. And really, that's the trick of Consonance, isn't it? There is undeniably work that needs to be done to put data into your one version of the truth. So what you absolutely have to be able to do is get the value out of that. So we'll look at that today. From our own correspondence, there's a little thing about training. Then lots of things that are new, so we'll dip into those and so forth. And then a quick power move at the end, as is our usual way, to finish the week off nicely. Heads up, I am going on my ols next week, so we're going to have a 2-week hiatus, as they say. So this will be the last live stream for a couple of weeks, but I'm quite sure there's plenty to catch up on in the old archives. Yes, we'll be going up to the even further north in Scotland. Can you imagine it? Up into the Black Isle to see some wonderful geology and coastlines and tea shops, no doubt. So we'll come back refreshed and revived and ready for more wonderful live streams on the run up to Christmas. But for now, let us go into our task of the week. And as I say, it's setting up teams. What does that mean? Let's go over to Consonance and have a look at what I'm even talking about here. So here we are in Consonance. We're logged in as our imaginary feline press publisher, purveyor of the finest books relating to cats. And often when we're thinking about Consonance, we're thinking about bibliographic data management. But probably the other half of Consonance is all to do with the project management side of things, getting the books created. And of course, there's a lot of tasks that need to go along with that. Oh, so many tasks. And there's people to do those tasks. Now, you can think of those people as actual, humans, individual treasured humans. And you can also think of the roles that they occupy. And it's true to say that the role of, let's say, managing editor within an organisation could be fulfilled by more than one person, or it could almost be synonymous with an individual human person. But in Consonance, you've got the chance to deal with both of those ideas. You can talk about the role that a to-do needs to be done by, and you can talk about the person who is currently fulfilling that role on one or more works. So let's have a look, instead of just me blathering, let's have a look at the place where you set up roles in the first place. So as usual, I'm going to open my menu, and I'm going to find roles on this page. And the easiest way to do that is to type role or similar. And the main menu whittles itself down as usual, and we're able to click on roles there. And this takes us to the settings page, I guess, for a particular for all of these roles. So in this particular account, we have got roles that, I've made up the words: allocating editor, artwork director, commissioning editor, so on and so forth. And yours will be different depending on your particular setup. You may have more or fewer. So those are the names of the roles. And then here are the individual human people or organisations that currently fulfil that role on any number of works. So you can see we've got people and we've got organisations fulfilling those roles, and we can have roles that are currently unfulfilled. So this finance director role is not currently fulfilled by any person or organisation on this account. So when we say person or organisation, what are we talking about? Let's go over to the address book just to have a look at that. And it's over here. It's people and organisations. I'm not going to click on it actually, just in case there's data. I haven't pre-clicked on it, but that's where you go to see the list of people and organisations that could be used to fulfil a particular role. So far so good. This is set up. This is articulating a plain old list of roles, and then we're also able to see the people who are currently fulfilling it. But now let's put it to use, to work. So let's go to work that hasn't got much on it. Cats in Gardens 2, the sequel. Here we are on Cats and Gardens, and if I go to project management, there's another link here to roles. So now we're at the work level for this work called Cats and Gardens 2. As things stand at the moment, there are no roles that have been fulfilled on this work yet. So, we went to the settings area for roles. We saw that there are roles in the system for this company, but for this particular work, there are no roles fulfilled yet. So this is, just sort of painting the big shapes of how this works. And this drop down here will show us the list of roles that we just saw on that settings page. Here we are, allocating editor, artwork director, finance director, and things like managing editor. Managing editor is a very popular one. So we can say, okay, managing editor, very good. Who do we want to fulfill the role of managing editor on this particular work? And Consonance comes up with some suggestions, and this is based on people or organisations who have fulfilled this role on other works previously. Why not put Bob Cratchit down? And you can see that we can have multiple people or organisations fulfilling this role as well. They can be a mix of users and contacts. So users are the people within your team who have a licence to use Consonance. They are the core members of your publishing company team. Contacts are people who don't habitually log into Consonance. They might be authors or editors or freelancers, but they may absolutely be people who are fulfilling roles on a particular work, especially with the freelance model. So let's click add for that, and all that does is give us a list of who's responsible for what on this particular work. We can do another one. Let's do the commissioning editor. Let's have somebody else, a contact being the commissioning editor for this. It might be a bit weird, but you can see this is all lined up here, and then you can remove particular people or organisations from these roles if you need to. So that's all also fine and dandy. When it comes to setting this up as a kind of template, if you were to duplicate a work, then one of the options is that you've got role fulfillments as an option that you can carry over to the duplicated work. So that can be quite handy. If you have a very complex setup of the roles that people need to fulfill on a particular work, and you don't want to do this every time you have a new work, then either set up an exemplar work that contains data like this that you want to use as a kind of template. See also royalty data, which is something for another day, I suppose. But if you've got this sort of idea of a standard work for this sort of thing that you're publishing, you can set up an exemplar work or of course you can duplicate an existing work, and then you don't have to do this multiple times. But yes, this is the general shape of this. And then this is a sort of record now of the people, the dream team who came together to make this work happen. And that could be really useful. I mean, it's almost silly in the moment. Of course, you know who the commissioning editor is for this. I mean, it's the person who's the commissioning editor. But Consonance is all about preserving your intellectual property. And the intellectual property that surrounds the project management of your works, I think, is just as valuable as some of the contract information or the bibliographic information. You know, this is information that is useful to preserve so that you can come back and see what worked and what didn't work, how to improve. You can see, it's almost like the audit trail of a project, you know, making sure that you've got the people down who are working hard on this work. You may want to include this information on your title verso page. I don't know, some companies do include the entire team. All useful information anyway. I also want to shout out discussions whilst I'm here in terms of useful information. So discussions are a great way to keep project relevant stuff close to the project for all perpetuity. It's so much better than putting this stuff in your generic email boxes, not least because, you know, when you leave the company that you're working at, because nobody's obliged to stick around for, you know, your entire career, when you leave, it would be a miserable task for somebody to have to pick through your work email to find the historical, you know, project management information that went along with, you know, the series that you did 5 years ago or something. So it's really useful to be able to put information that is more discursive, more qualitative into the discussions area, and then people can subscribe to it. People can, you know, be receiving these discussion notifications into their normal email, but you're getting this record here. So something for another day perhaps, but don't forget about discussions when we're talking about project management and preserving this idea of your intellectual property not just being restricted to bibliographic metadata and to contract information. You know, there is richness in this stuff, and richness that deserves to be preserved and will be very helpful when it's preserved. Another item on this project management drop down at work level, of course, is the to-dos. And I've deliberately chosen a work where we don't have any to-dos set up. So we're going to add one now, and we're going to use our new roles. So this isn't, now we're sort of continuing down this path of why is it useful to set up the roles on your work. So if I click add to do, I can say something like line edit manuscript. Now this is one to do on one work. Normally I would be using templating to set up my entire body of work that needs to be done. And I would use that exemplar approach as well, again, using the copy from button. But for now, we'll focus on this one to do and look at who is responsible. So when I click this drop down, it fills up with all of the contacts from my address book. So remember, we would go to menu and then address book, and we'd see all of the people and organisations who you work with. That's not restricted to contributors. It also includes printers, suppliers, data aggregators, literary agents, and other organisations and people that you might have some sort of reason to communicate with during your publishing endeavours. So there's lots of people and organisations, but there are also roles in here. And if I type in managing, just the start of the word managing, I see some options come back, and they're prefixed with the word role. And so I've got the digital manager role, the managing editor role, the production manager role, the sales manager role, these are all what we say user-defined words. You will call different roles, the words that you choose to call them. And that's one of the beauties of this. Part of Consonance is mapping the real words that you use to your publishing endeavours. To your publishing system. So we've got these roles. I'm going to say that the managing editor role is, they're not going to like that actually, is responsible for line editing the manuscript. Now at this point I haven't said exactly who the managing editor is. I'm just saying that the role is responsible for it. I'm not going to fill in anything else because that's for another day. But do you notice when I say that, remember I only put in the managing editor role, but Consonance knows enough now to know that Bob Cratchit and Emma Plus Feline has been allocated is fulfilling the role on this particular work. So that's really nice, and it works the other way as well. So let's choose a role that hasn't yet been fulfilled on this work. And I seem to remember the finance director role has not been fulfilled. So let's go back to a to-do and let's add in another to-do, and it's something like sign off financial plan. Seems appropriate. Who's responsible for that? Financial controller? Financial director, either or, one of those two. In fact, why not both? There we go. Financial controller and financial director are going to sign this off. When I hit save there, I see that actually that's fine. I can allocate that to those roles, but they are currently unfulfilled on this works project. So that's interesting, isn't it? Because it means that right at the start of the process of setting this work up, I mean, you may not even have acquired this thing yet. You may not even have an author or a manuscript in mind. You might be doing some real high-level planning. We want to have 10 publications about stripy cats in 2028, and we're just setting up some placeholder information at the moment, but we certainly know that we're going to need a finance director and we're going to need a managing editor. At that really early stage, you can start to plan your project, get your arms around the thing, and allocate to-dos to roles. And then later on, as you get closer to the project, or as you get a new starter, or as you switch teams around, or as you progress, allocate a person or organisation to the role on this work, and then this gets updated automatically, and it gets updated kind of in bulk, if you know what I mean. So let's say review how finances went. Terrible to do. At the end of the process, the financial director is going to do that. So now I've got two to-dos that are going to be fulfilled by the person or organisation who is occupying the role of finance director on this work, unfulfilled at the moment. Let's put that person in charge. So we're going to say finance director is going to be fulfilled by me, and add that, and finance controller is going to be fulfilled by Bob, and do that. And now when we go back to our to-dos, you know what you're going to see. You're going to see those names now against the to-dos allocated nicely. So, it's this idea of whatever data you've got at the moment, put that into Consonance. Don't let the feeling of incomplete data, or data that you know is going to change, don't let that hold you back from getting on with your day. And I think that roles here is a really nice little example of that. So that's probably enough of me repeating the word role and fulfillment and work, because it gets quite, honestly, don't try and ask me to spell the word fulfillment anymore, because I've typed it so many times. It's gets very baffling. So that's probably enough talk about roles and role fulfillments for the moment. Let's go back to our task list for today, because we're going to hop over to the reporting spotlight in a moment. So we'll tee that up. We've set up some teams. Now we are going to use some of that information over in the reporting area. Great. So let's go back to Consonance. Let's do that. So you know how to get to reporting, of course. Main menu. I can either click laboriously on reporting there, or I should have starred reporting previously because it's what I always go to all the time. Or if I want to whittle down this visual complexity, I can type rep, and that gives me just that one link there. But however I get to it, I'm going to go to reporting, and I'm going to create a new report so we've got a clean slate. No conditions on our report yet. So what I'm going to do is type the word role into search conditions here, because I just want to disambiguate this word. Role. Great. And we get this list of things, list of conditions that contain the word role, and they're not all the same. So this is the thing about Consonance being such a broad system. You know, there's a lot of times when the same words come up, and we need to be super clear about what we're talking about here. So that's why all of the times that the word role appears here, it is prefixed by what it actually means. Let's just step through these options that have come up here so we know what we're talking about. The very first item on the list is work contact role. Let me get that bigger. The work contact role is something like edited by, or illustrations by, or translated by. It's an Onyx code list code. It's used for describing the role that your contributors play on a particular work. And it's to do with how those people or organisations have contributed to a work, which is why it says contributions. So when let's just do it. When you're looking at that sort of thing, work contact role, it's these sorts of things. It's the code list that goes out in Onyx that tells your distributor and retailer partners who contributed to this work in what capacity. So that is what work contact role means. It's those things. Let's go back here though and look at the other roles we're interested in. So the next one down is language role. So this is not to do with the project management stuff that we were talking about again. This is another Onyx drop-down, Onyx code list set of options. And it's how you describe what the language, what role a particular language plays in your publication. So if another one of these conditions was French, you could say, and I'm looking for all of the works where the language of the text is French, or I'm looking for all of the works where the language of the subtitles is French. So that's that sort of role, and that's that drop down there, straight from the Onyx standard. So you know, this is the way of talking between systems, between companies, that has been agreed internationally. When we talk about data and we're using the Onyx language, this means that there's a great sort of lack of ambiguity. Everyone can look up what these words, what these codes actually mean against the international standard. So far we've done work contact role, we've done language role, we've got another contact role there, and these are all metadata roles so far. But the next one down, role fulfillments, now we are starting to get to the sorts of roles that we were talking about earlier on. So now if I've selected role fulfillments role, include any of, and now here is our familiar list. We've got finance director, which we've just been looking at, haven't we? We've got managing editor, and these are all words that this particular client, Feline Press, has decided sensibly describe the roles on the team. So you will see different values here. And in fact, you might see nothing if you've not set roles up yet. But this is all to play for you. Whatever your org chart looks like for your team, those are the words that should appear here so that this is reflecting your reality. So let's have a look. Let's have a look at this search. So we haven't had to say products or anything. We haven't had to say any publication dates. We're saying that the search condition is looking at roles that include any finance director. So, what are we going to get back? Let's hit search and have a look. And what we get back is 1 work and 3 products. So this is the way that reporting works here. It kind of tunnels through. It says, let's get the list up. Here's our products list. It tunnels through and it says, give me all of the whatever I want to see is here that satisfy this search condition. And so I know, looking at this products list, that the work that these products belong to has got a role that includes finance director. So it's really powerful because I haven't had to say, give me all of the products that are published next year and then show me the roles. It's kind of gone the other way. So it's definitely worth noodling. Once your real data is in here and you look at this sort of stuff, you think, oh right, okay, so I can get a report that way, not just the other way. It makes a lot more sense when it's your own data. So go and have a play, definitely. And the secret sauce to seeing all of this stuff is, of course, our display drop down here. I went to lists and I clicked on products and I'm seeing a products list. I can do the same for all of this other sort of information. But one of the most appropriate lists to look at for role work is these to-dos. So let's have a look at to-dos and see if this makes any sense. And here's our to-dos that we put in earlier. We've got our line edit manuscript, it's Cats in Gardens. We've got sign off financial plan, Cats in Gardens, and it's review how finances went. But wait a minute, you say, what's going on here? We've looked for the roles where the role fulfillment includes finance director. Why are we seeing line edit manuscript? And it's precisely because what this report has done is say, get me all of the products that satisfy these conditions, and then go up a level to present what we've got here, which is the work title. So it's showing us all of the to-dos for that work where any of these conditions have matched. So it's quite good because you get to see, you get to start off from a particular point. Like, I need to see any works where a finance director is involved. It gets you the to-dos, but then it sort of goes up that next level to the parent, to the work. And then on this display, it's showing you all of the to-dos for the works. So again, really super kind of handy, but definitely worth noodling with and playing with, so you get your head into what's going on there. And I've got a power move for you later, which I'm going to come back and show you some other stuff on this. But that is, really interesting and useful way to get the most out of putting this role information in and then being able to use it in your reporting. There's all sorts of different reports that you can then sort of get out of from one of these, fairly pedestrian starting points. Just show me all of the roles, and then show me all of the everythings. So that's all great fun, very, very useful. And it's interesting actually, isn't it? Because whenever I'm showing you stuff on the live stream here, it's always one tiny little example that I've, sort of structured. But the real power comes into it when A, it's your own data, so it resonates, and B, there's 10,000 lines of it. Because this is all about bringing clarity to what is necessarily a very data heavy domain. Every work has 100, 200 to-dos on it, and being able to process that and make sense of it is really, really the trick of things, isn't it? Anyway, that's a look at Reporting Spotlight. Lots more that can be tunnelled into on that, so stay tuned, I guess, for more live streams as the weeks roll by. Right, what's next? From our own correspondence. I mean, this is a bit of a catch-all comment that comes in from time to time. I thought I'd speak to it because it's interesting, isn't it? What this question encompasses. It's so broad. You might have somebody who has just started on the team. Oh, can they have some consonants training? And it's like, yes, absolutely. To do what? In the context of what? What is the challenge that they're, facing, and what are they hoping to achieve? So when we take on new clients, starting to use consonants for the first time, it's a fire hose of information, and it's half everything you hoped for, and half too much, because the promise of one version of the truth necessarily means that, great, you've got everything in one place, but how do you start to make sense of that absolute barrage of data? So let's go back to the interface and let's pretend that this is all new. I'm going to make the assumption that publishing is not new. No, actually, let's make the assumption that publishing is a fairly unknown thing for you, because that gets to the nub of what I'm talking about. That starts to make you think, how do you see the big shapes of what Consonance is trying to do? And so there are a few things that when I'm asked to do some training, there's a few things that I like to try and ensure that have been made clear in people's minds. So the first one is, what are the things called that we produce as an industry? And you'll be shaking your fist at the computer now or the phone and saying, they're books, of course, silly lady, don't you know anything? And I think books are like the last thing, the last word that we should use to describe the things that we produce, because it's such a vague word. The second last word that we should use is title, because the title is something like the string of words cats throughout history. That's a title. A title is not a good word to describe a physical copy of a paperback. I haven't got any books around me. I said the word books. But when we're looking at data in a structured format like this, I think it really helps to use some words that bring the greatest clarity to what you're trying to do. So this is what I say when folk start. I say consonance has got the idea of a family tree. When we're talking about this thing that we produce called Cats Throughout History, we're talking about a work, and a work has many products. Let's click on Cats Throughout History and see what I mean a little bit more. It's a bad example because there's no data there. Let's click on Cats of the World and see what information we've got. It's not very good. We've got this work, Cats of the World, and when we're publishing the work Cats of the World, we're doing it in the following product formats. We're doing it in paperback, we're doing it in the downloadable audio file format, we're doing it in the electronic book text format, and we're doing it in the hardback format. And so when you're thinking about how Consonance is storing your information, it's storing it at the work level, and then it's talking about the formats of that work. Because, we don't sell works, do we? I mean, we do if you're in the rights team, but stay with me for a minute. We don't sell the manuscript. We sell the paperback, the hardback, the EPUB, the PDF. And when I say sell, I mean sometimes we present it for free in the open access model, but we allow people to access the content through the vehicle of particular formats. We do that because it saves you having to put in repeated information. When we talk about one version of the truth, we're just as interested in that being the reality of the database that underlines the interface that you see as anything. Working with clients who sort of come to us sometimes from other systems or from a sort of spreadsheet-based existence, we hear words such as mirror fields and versions and things, and it all gives a bit of a sense that people are used to putting the same information in more than once. So we have this model where you have a work, it has many products, information that belongs at the work level, such as subject codes, like the thema code or the BZAC code. That is at the work level, is shared by all of the siblings on that work. And then other information that belongs at the product level, such as prices, sits at the product level, and then that's the correct place to put it. So yes, so this is a really key idea for when somebody is sort of looking at consonants for the first time, feeling a bit possibly like overwhelmed because they haven't yet been explained to what the sort of big shapes, the big concepts of consonants are. So that's a really important one. Another like what I sometimes think the phrase "can I have training" means. Another example of that is, how do I move around the consonants interface to find the thing I want? So that's another very valid and useful thing to get clear in your mind sooner rather than later. And we've covered a lot of this repeatedly on live streams, but I'll just dip into the bits that are important. The menu, which we look at every time we go to a new page. The ways of navigating around that menu, which are to use this filter here. So earlier we went to reporting. We were looking at roles earlier, and that's there. So moving around that menu is important. And actually, as you become more practiced in consonants, using some of the more advanced tools, such as not advanced, but the tools that become more and more useful, the more familiar you get with consonants and the more you want to have shortcuts. So let's press Control there, and now we get keyboard shortcuts. So the first time you come to this menu, you're not going to immediately think, okay, right, keyboard shortcut DO to get to the Onyx bit. But once you've opened up consonants daily for 3 weeks, you might be aching for a quicker way to do something. So being able to, in fact, what I tend to do is, open up the menu and then quickly press the words that I'm interested in. So when I'm going to reporting, which is IR, what I do is control IR, control control IR, control IR. And then I'm right there, and then I get taken to it. Yeah, it's really quick when your fingers press the wrong keys. You'll be better at it than me. So navigating through the menu is really a key part of things. Becoming familiar with the big blocks of functionality. It's worth scanning this with your what are the big shapes brain on, and thinking, okay, well, that's kind of overview stuff. This is metadata stuff. I know this. This is lists of works and products. Fine. Project management. Okay, good. Yes. This is where the workflow stuff happens. We were looking at roles as well. Production. Right. If I'm in production, then I'm going to come here to see lists of print runs, production runs, POD setup. and the financial implications of paying printers to print stuff. If I'm in royalties, okay, this is where contracts and royalties happen. If I'm in rights, I've got my own box here for rights deals and permissions in and out. Then I've got some admin stuff, which, depending on your role within your organisation, is going to be where you spend a lot of time or where you sort of leave it to somebody else. And then we've got people and organisations down here as well. So this starts to give you a mental picture of what Consonance is about. It also starts, I think it's really useful to think, within your own systems landscape, okay, this is the sort of thing that Consonance is doing. I'm not seeing anything here about HR or payroll or pick, pack and ship. So think about what Consonance does, then think about also what your other systems do, and build your own mental map of how these different systems talk to each other and the mechanism that they talk to each other, that they use to talk to each other. So you might, it might prompt some inquiries like, how does my product list get into my, some other system that you're using? If you're using a proprietary system to do royalties, how does my contract information get from Consonance to that system, or does it go the other way? Or these are the questions that are then framed for you to make inquiries of in your own setup. And we might know here, because if we've onboarded the wider team, then chances are these questions have come up. So totally raise support tickets to us to ask questions that may not feel directly linked to the interface at hand. Here to help in all ways. So we've looked at the menu. Then when it comes to the question of orienting yourself around the interface, really then the other piece of information that I try to get clear from the start is finding data within Consonance. And so there's a few different kind of search options which are worth looking at and checking that you're clear on. So one of them is this product search bar at the top of every page. I mean, if I put cats in, it's going to bring back almost everything, but let's do throughout, because that's a spell it right, that's the word. So that brings up a list of products. So you can see this is a product level because it's got formats in the name of the thing that's been returned, and ISBNs when relevant as well, and pub dates. So that is a really useful way to find a particular work and then jump to the page that you're interested in. If you want to go straight to the contract page, fantastic, go straight to the contract page, and you're on the work area there. So it's worth like dotting around a bit to think, okay, now I'm at the work level, aren't I? Whereas previously I was on the work for Cats of the World. And if I go to the home page, now I am not at work level, I'm at company level. And if I go to one of the list pages, now I'm again at, if the page is, I'm at company level, and I'm seeing that sort of overview. So, getting that sense of I can go to the sort of 18,000 foot view, I can go right down into the detail. And even when I'm on the detail of a work, so if I click on Cats Ahoy here, I've got this sort of, I'm definitely at the work level because I can see that there's options that only relate to the work, but I can drill down ever further. If I go to the metadata page, then I can look at pricing, particularly for this, and then if I click to edit some of the prices, I can get to some real, low level corners. So now we're looking at supplier specific values for one work, for one product. This is for the audio file, and I'm down right in the detail of some market relevant information here. So you can drill absolutely all the way down But you can always rescue yourself by coming back to the top level here, searching for products there. So that's one way to find data within Consonance, find product data, and then go straight to it. Another one is this option here, recently visited works. If you're anything like me, for particular periods of time, you're going to the same work again and again and again, because that's the one that's approaching publication or similar. So, being able to go straight back to a work that you visited quite recently is helpful to use that menu there. Within various pages, there's a further filter. If we go to the metadata page for this particular work, you can see that my cursor has landed on this type to filter page option. So if I'm looking for pricing on this, huge metadata page that contains all the metadata for Cat Heist, then I can use these filters. So those appear on pages where they are most useful. There's one on the contracts page. There's one on to-dos actually. So if we went to to-dos for Cat Heist, there's quite a few to-dos here. If you just want to, and these have been prefixed with sensible things. So if I just want to see to-dos to do with like digital, then I can type digital there, and I get this nice whittling down of complexity. So these filters are really, really great for sort of taking control of what you're seeing on the interface. And then the final area, of course, for finding things is the reporting area. And because it is so comprehensive, and because you can perform various searches, but then be able to see, do we have anything? Anything with heart in it? Nothing with heart in it. What about heist? Much more appropriate. Because we're, able to put in a search, but go to so many different parts of the system and surface the data that we see there. This is a really great way for starting to grapple with the information, see what's coming up, jump from, a report that you've controlled yourself through into the other areas that we were looking at. So that in a, not really a nutshell, that in a bit of a 10-minute blather is what goes through my mind when someone says, can I have some training? I think the real question there is, how do I make sense of all of this information? How do I take control of what I'm seeing? What's useful to me? There's no role in a publishing company that covers everything. Production are going to be most interested in the production stuff. Editorial are going to be most interested in the editorial stuff. People responsible for project management are going to sort of coalesce around to-dos. So you have to be given ways to come up with your consonants, your way of grappling with this information. And by the very nature of it, it's work that you have to do yourself. So those are some of the tools that you can do, that you can use to start to understand how consonance is useful for you. Definitely drop me a line if you want some less generic thinking about that. We can get together and we can talk about ways into your data that make most sense for you. But I think it's really important to think about this stuff. Great. Running out of time a little bit. So a quick rattle through on what's new. This is a very busy slide. Lots of characters that don't belong together. Dark mode went live this last week. I've refrained from using it because I don't want to. It's difficult now, isn't it? What mode do I do live streams in? My eyes prefer dark mode. Many people's eyes prefer light mode. We'll just have to muddle through, won't we? But if you have very strong opinions, then let us know. It may sway. But yes, definitely let us know any feedback on the dark mode roll out, let us know about, well, just let us know. If it's working for you, great. If it's not working for you, also great, let us know. Because we can change it rather than just saying, oh dear, that's so sad. Great. Marketing materials. I've been working this week on some what they call refactoring of some code, so that we can structure the marketing materials in ever more interesting ways. So the code is not remotely written yet, but what I am working towards is having a choice of different products on a work on a PDF. So if you think about an advanced information sheet, what information do you want to see on it? You might only want hardback information, the hardback ISBN, pub date, price, so forth. You might definitely actually not want that. You might want the hardback and the paperback, but not the special edition that goes to, like a proprietary thing that goes to one particular retailer. So, there's definitely nuance there, which is coming down the line. It gets ever more complicated with the multi-work marketing materials. So, think of a backlist page in a catalogue, lots of works, as little thumbnails. Within each of those works, what product information do you want to see? Like something like HB and then the ISBN, PB and then the ISBN, maybe pricing as well. How do you tell Consonance what products on the work should be included on either a single or a multi-work PDF? So that's been my brain work this week. Just giving you a heads up, really, in case you wanted to let me know. Oh, yes, we're thinking about that, and I have a requirement. Very, very good to hear. EUDR got pushed back 12 months. So that's the thing. Don't let it slow us all down. There is still a lot of work to do, and that really is pending hearing how the supply chain is going to manage it all. So we'll keep talking about that. And then the last thing to mention is that as part of the dark mode rollout, we revisited some of our accessibility settings, and I'm pleased to report that the standard that we set for ourselves, which was WCAG 2.1 AAA, is covered. In fact, that's actually the materials that the library that we use. I think it's actually 22AA is what we're working to at the moment. So that's things like, is the target space around a particular link, is that big enough to be comfortably clicked upon? Have all of the table headings got labels so that screen readers can successfully identify them compared to the columns that they're in? That sort of thing. So where the Consonance interface has not been testing for that sort of thing, my esteemed colleagues are working on that this week and the coming weeks to make sure that we're as accessible an interface as we can possibly manage. Definitely always let us know if you're encountering any sort of hiccup. Don't think, oh, it's just me. Consonance is for everyone, and we definitely need to know how we can make it better and better and better and better all the time. Right, power move. Oh, on that note, contrast ratio. So I was hoping just to show you a little page, and it's to do with marketing materials. I have shown this before, but it is a little bit of a power move, which I just wanted to make sure was clear in your mind. And it's on the text styles page in settings, so really quite far down in the gubbins. But this is where you set up text styles to appear on your marketing materials. And I was just talking about the Consonance interface achieving certain accessibility standards. We definitely want to enable you to more effortlessly achieve the same accessibility standards on the materials that are produced by Consonance that you're then using to sell your sell your products in to retailers and out to the public. So it's important to us that when you're using particular colours against a white background on a PDF, we want to have flagged whether you are satisfying the WCAG 2.1 AAA contrast check. So clicking on this info button here tells you what ratio of colour font, bearing in mind the strength of it and the size of it, what that ratio is compared to a white background. And you can see here, and it's, doesn't surprise me to see that this I can hardly see that, but this rather faded colour against a white background is woefully poor in terms of that contrast. So we're not stopping you from doing this, but we are flagging that this is a problem. So it's definitely worth making sure that you avail yourself of the utility of this column, and making sure that you don't subject your users to words that cannot be read. So let's fix this one here. I know it's only local, but it's going to annoy, isn't it? Very, very, very pale there. Let's drag that colour up so that it's a little bit more likely to pass. Save that, and that's a lot better. Lovely crisp background. So it's interesting, isn't it, that even when the font is at 33 point and bold, some colours are just going to be unacceptable, unaccessible. So yes, so that's a little power move that you can say. I couldn't help but notice, marketing team, that whilst our advanced information sheets are beautifully designed, they are sadly illegible. And use your ratios on this page to check them. Great, power move delivered. Splendid. Right, I am not going on my holidays yet. I am got another week's work, but next Thursday and the following Thursday there will be no live stream, so that we can go and have a lovely break. Well, now all the children are back at school, so it should be a really lovely peaceful one as well. So yes, so we will see you 13th-ish of October, that sort of week. Gosh, it feels quite approaching the autumn period, isn't it, for those of us in this part of the world. All of the berries are out on the bushes and the shrubs out my window. I can see beautiful blue skies and birds twittering in the North Scotland breeze. So I shall enjoy a bit more of that, being outside for the next few weeks. I hope you have a lovely few weeks as well. Definitely let me know of any topics that you'd like covered in the run-up to Christmas when we get back, heavens. But until then, hope your prep for Frankfurt Book Fair goes well. Hope Consonance comes in handy. And see you on the other side. Take it easy.